Okay, I guess this is live. I guess this is as loud as I'm gonna be too. I don't know. It's just the first pitch that I chose. But anyway, I've been writing some note cards tonight. I know, usually I just do this off the cuff. But I also have to do it a little bit more structured than I've done it the first couple times. And, of recent anyway. And tonight, I'm gonna get into why are the numbers so high? Can't we get it under control? I mean, all we need is more testing and then we'll get the numbers in control. But oh wait, maybe if we had less testing. Oh yeah, but no, we need more testing. But wait, we want the numbers down. Oh man, I forget, where did I start? Anyway, so I just gotta say, what I wanted to do was I was gonna actually hit the street corner with every one of these. Each one gonna be a sign. You know, I was gonna tell people the whole story right on the street, but hey, this is gonna work better. I believe it. So anyway, the beginning of April. Okay, Stanford team goes to Santa Clara County, California, with San Jose and all that. Silicon Valley. They estimated from their study 2.5% to 4.2% of all citizens had antibodies to coronavirus, COVID-19 or whatever, right? Like, they're good. Now that was astonishing because there was 50 to 85 times as many people at that time had actually known cases. They only had a sliver of as many cases back in April as they did of antibodies. And so antibodies, if you don't know, okay, you get a disease, you get a parasite, whatever. I mean, your body is going to actually adapt to fighting it. It produces its own like active poisons against whatever that thing is, which that's a poison, you know. But anyway, once you have antibodies, you're immune to it. So these maybe 4.2% of the population, which could even be more now. It's probably way higher, wouldn't you say? It's only been about 3.5 months. So anyway, there was only about 1,000 cases in all Santa Clara County back then, and then 50 to 80 times as many people actually had antibodies. Okay, so in May 23rd, CNN reported something preposterous, and it's not preposterous like you think, but it's preposterous like the CDC and 11 states acknowledged that they mixed the testing results between the viral and antibody tests. So, you know what antibodies are? They're mixing the people who were immune to it with the people who were a case where they're sick supposedly from it. Okay? That's inflating numbers. Especially seeing how there was 80 times maybe as many people as were sick as had antibodies, and we're sick already and got better from it, or just didn't even get sick. The crazy thing is, our bodies just deal with it. Like, everything comes around us, and it's just part of the whole ecosphere. It's just on the microsphere. So, to be dodging and avoiding every last bit of bacteria and antiviral everything, like, it's nuts. Well, anyway, some of y'all don't want to have buff immune systems. You gotta let it work out sometimes. So anyway, those 11 states, now the CDC, how would they not know? How would they not know that those people that had antibodies didn't have the disease? They need to know that. Okay, but the 11 states, it was original on CNN, then Fox picked it up. I got it through the Fox. They're mixing the numbers. Colorado, Delaware, Georgia, Maine, Mississippi, Missouri, New Hampshire, Pennsylvania, Texas, Vermont, and Virginia. Alright. It's saying that like most of these states, they shaped up. They started doing the numbers right and all that. Okay, red flag. Here, some states didn't even respond. Alright. So suspects number 1 are these 5. Alaska, Arizona. Huh? Big epidemic in Arizona, Florida? I wonder what's going on down here. Iowa and Kentucky. Alright, so I couldn't get a good grasp on Alaska. Now, Iowa and Kentucky, they got their numbers straight. They straightened things out. Now, like, here's more credibility for this perversity. Why is Medicinet.com? They have an article entitled, How Do the COVID-19 Coronavirus Tests Work? Well, up at the top, it differentiates. It says, well, tests for coronavirus may use two methods. The tests are genomic detection-based, molecular, which would be PCR. We're going to get into that. Polychain reaction, just PCR, or the immunoglobulin detection-based, which is serology. Serology is how you measure your antibodies. You go for serology, you're getting an antibody test. Okay, but why is this okay? They shouldn't be switching numbers up, and I don't know. Anyway, Johns Hopkins. This is the other side of the coin. Or is it controlled opposition? It says, quote, when states report testing numbers for COVID-19 infection, they should not include serology, antibody tests, or antibody tests. States that include serology tests within their overall COVID-19 testing numbers are misrepresenting their testing capacity and the extent to which they are working to identify COVID-19 infections within their communities. All right? So, Johns Hopkins says, don't do it. It's bad. You're skewing the whole results and the whole picture. You know what? It does, because, like, a lot of these labs have more capacity to even test for the serology test than they do for PCR. PCR takes hours. Like, you need a whole room dedicated to it, I think. I mean, just thinking about how many machines they could go, like, at once. I don't know how many solar panels you need to be able to power that whole contraption. But that'd be a lot going on. These machines have to get up to like 100 degrees or 200 degrees or something. Anyway, probably thinking Fahrenheit and Celsius at the same time. But so Washington Post, July 7th. Okay, this is the headline because they're so audacious. They put a paywall up. I can't even get a single thing except for the headline. So it says CDC wants states to count probable coronavirus cases and deaths, but most aren't doing it. Huh. Well, I guess they got chided for not being patriotic enough or something. Anyway, so June 29th, ABC5 Cleveland. Alright, they have two numbers, is what they go over. One is confirmed, and two is probable. Huh. Turns out this is actually just a subset of the antibody numbers. This probable. Yep. So, there's ABC5 Cleveland. It breaks it down. It says, according to the CDC, one of the three ways a case can be considered probable is a person meeting presumptive laboratory evidence, and either clinical criteria or epidemiological evidence. Now, this is a weird, wishy-washy waffle word, presumptive. What is presumptive? Laboratory evidence. Presume just means to assume, doesn't it? We shouldn't be assuming, should we? Well, here it says the CDC says presumptive laboratory evidence includes either detection of specific antigen. Antigen is the pathogen. It hurts you. Detection of specific antibody. So it's either or. It could be the antibody or the antigen. You see how these are opposites. If you have the hero, then you have the villain. Do you see what it's saying here? If you have the antibody, you're sick. No, you got the hero. You ain't got the villain is the antigen. So anyway, alright, but there was a two-part to this criteria point where presumptive laboratory evidence and either clinical criteria or epidemiological evidence. Well, here's epidemiological evidence. It's defined by the CDC. Close contact with a confirmed or probable case. It could be another probable case. Okay, you have antibodies and you have contact with somebody that had antibodies or that has it, then now you get counted. This is the CDC. Every state can mix these numbers. Okay? It's not good. But there's more. There are other ways. Here, if you, now this is another definition of their epidemiological evidence, supposedly. You traveled or had residence in certain communities, or if you're a member of a risk cohort as defined by public health authorities. A risk cohort, they could just name anybody a risk cohort. Do you understand? It's like if they said that blacks are more at risk, well, you're a risk cohort. And then so you're black, you know? Oh, by the way, you have antibodies. Do you see how perverse this is? Anyway, this is why I'm sitting here. So, the COVID tracking project started out like by somebody in the Atlantic magazine. Okay, it became a big, huge outreach collective. Okay, they've got the straight scoop on the poop about state to state, all the way down to the bottom. What was the first one? Alabama? All the way Alabama to Wyoming. But up at the top, it says in bold, note on cases. Well, it says following guidance from the CDC, many U.S. states and territories now report both lab-confirmed cases and probable cases of COVID-19. Let me get some of this water. All right. Okay. It says following guidance from the CDC. Many U.S. states and territories now report both lab-confirmed cases and probable cases of COVID-19. Many of the states that report probable cases don't separate probable and lab-confirmed cases in their reporting. We have changed the label we use for this information from positives to cases to make it clear that these numbers do not exclusively represent positive test results. Okay, this is official information. So, COVID tracking project. State by state, as I said. Enter Arizona. As of May 8th, Arizona is reporting specimens tested, including both PCR and antibody tests. Huh. What do you know? Even the state over there in the southwest is just exploding with cases. Oh my gosh. It's rocketing to the moon, this digit. It's never ending like this RNA chain that I look at. Funny, it also says about Florida, as of May 15th, Florida is reporting both specimens, PCR and antibody, and people tested. So, same thing. Most of these states, it'll actually specifically say that they separate the PCR tests from the antibody tests. Now, with these two states that right now we know are spiking to the moon, they don't. They don't care. They send everything in. They send in the antibody tests and make it look like it's actual cases. Well, anyway, there's more. Okay, Kansas does the same thing, it seems. Michigan, Puerto Rico, Tennessee, Virginia, and Wyoming, I was kind of unclear. You know, go check it out for yourself. Wyoming, they say suspect cases instead of probable cases. So I don't know, to me that in itself is suspect. Now, I'll make a note about Texas. I didn't find anything nefarious or weird about Texas. So far as what it says, Texas has like the real numbers. It separates, it gives the PCR test. But I'm going to get into how that's not even real. Yeah, you stay tuned. So anyway. Cool. Yeah, okay, so I hope you got that. We thought that was bad. Yeah, we're getting into it now. They're not even supposed to diagnose with the thermal cycler. That's the machine that the PCR works with. The PCR, it makes a little piece of information a lot. Like, okay, this DNA, RNA, right? Now, RNA is just half of DNA, essentially. And that's what this virus is. And so, it tries to replicate just a part of that virus, the virus RNA. It's a gene known as the N gene, as in letter in the alphabet. and it makes it so that there's a little tiny tack that they put on it called a primer. Alright, now it's like 18 to 24 of these basis points that they're like little pieces of the DNA RNA chain. That's what DNA RNA are made of, like this small little, yeah. So what it does, the little tack lands on the stretch of DNA or RNA, either one, and then there's an enzyme called Taq polymerase. It fills in the rest of the strand automatically. And so anyway, then it gets hot, and in the tube, okay, you have like the primer lands here, Taq polymerase makes it so it's like a double strand, right? DNA information, and then it heats up and they separate. Okay, so that's how you duplicate them, because they have more of those tacks, primer. It's like 18 to 24 basis points. That's all this primer is. And it just doubles whatever that piece of RNA material or DNA material was. Right? And it's just one piece of the DNA sequence. It's the N gene on the DNA, the RNA in this case, because this is COVID, or SARS-CoV. The SARS part 2. Well, anyway, what it does, now I'll just finish it because it's fast, but it multiplies or exponentiates, makes like a billionfold of one little strand of DNA. Yeah, so it heats up, cools down, heats up, cools down, heats up, cools down, heats up, cools down. Each time it does that, it's creating double of whatever DNA or RNA and those sequences that were in there. That like the primer will tap, could latch onto, and it just keeps on. It's nuts. And I'm gonna get into the person that invented that, if you just stay tuned. Well, they're not even supposed to be using those things to diagnose. Okay, so I'll show you. Yeah. Now, I took the time to look it up. Yep, lucky I own a dictionary. Diagnose is the act or process of discovering or identifying a diseased condition by means of medical examination, laboratory tests, etc. Okay? It's to see a diseased condition, not to see a virus. Viruses are everywhere. Now, if you go on the website to buy one of these SARS testing kits, right? The PCR test, as I'm getting into still, right? It'll have a statement on there saying regulatory status for research use only, not for use in diagnostic procedures. You get it? Oh, wait, there's more. It says where you buy the kit. It says on the website now. This product is intended for the detection of 2019 novel coronavirus. The detection result of this product is only for clinical reference, and it should not be used as the only evidence for clinical diagnosis and treatment. So, the reason why is apparent. Because just because you have the virus doesn't mean you have the disease. So if it detects a virus, we'll skippity-doo. Like, okay, I'm not sick, so I don't need to get tested. Everybody just has a little bit of virus. It's everywhere. Why do you think they want you to wash your hands every 10 seconds? Because it's just all over the place. Hey, I ain't gonna stop itching my nose when I have to, alright? And nobody's reforming me into not picking it either sometimes. So anyway, it's a bogus diagnosis, to give word up to my buddy Mike, who's supposed to be my other future draft dodger, but maybe in the future. Okay, well here's a little piece of a piece I wrote. I thought it was special. It's a simile. Now it says, it's as if we were in the midst of a blistering blizzard, and scores of people were coming down with hypothermia. Hysteria over the percentage of people with hypothermic horror stories caused a widespread demand for people to get tested for snow, which was associated with the disease hypothermia. The more they tested for snow, the more people tested positive and were forced to stay home and stoke their fireplaces for an entire fortnight. Good overall health notwithstanding. Yeah. That was me. So, the swab. Nasopharyngeal. Back of your nose. Really discomforting. So I've been told. I'm not getting this thing until they force it. But, and that's, whew, let's not put that in the universe. Now, what would a virus be doing back there? I mean, hey, you know, if I was a virus, I probably would actually enter the nose. Yeah, I'd dig that. That'd be dope. Yeah, the nose. Yeah. Yeah, if I was a virus, that'd be my point of entry right there. Yeah, the nose. Oh, so, you know, you mean, like, viruses might actually be up there. You know, they're trying to get in, they're probably, like, trying to get in all the time. Hey, sometimes lizards get into my house, like, I can't help it. I feel bad for the guy. I'm not gonna find him. He's too hard to catch. He's probably gonna die. I don't know. But it's just bringing a little bit of truth to your world for a second. But they didn't have a chance to see the antibodies yet. That's the point I'm getting at. When they scrub inside your nose, because they really get deep, and man, it's dark. They pull out viruses because viruses would get in at point of entry anyway. Then your immune system anyway. Alright, but they never had a chance. Well, we're to get into one of the more radical people I've seen or heard of in a long time. The inventor of the PCR said, quote, PCR has also had a great impact on the field of AIDS, or rather HIV research. PCR can, among other things, detect HIV in people who test negative for the HIV antibody test. He's being snarky. So anyway, his name's Kerry Mullis. A pretty cool guy. Look into his short bio, at least. Yeah. So anyway, like ABC wanted to do a piece on him later on. And he is a little too radical for TV, but they let him do it. They let him do it for like 2 episodes. They really wanted to give it to him, I guess, because it was an honor. This guy, he won a 1993 Nobel Prize in Chemistry because of his conceiving of this machine, which apparently that's all he did really, is he just conceived of it. While he was out driving in the woods or whatever, he was with his girlfriend, and he pulled over to the side because she was sleeping, and he came up with this brilliant insight. It turned into the PCR machine, known as the thermocycler, or something like that. So anyway, yeah, he invented the PCR method. You know, sure, somebody else probably came up with the hardware, I don't know. Still though, he was mathing it out with mathematics on the side of the road while his girlfriend was like, "What are you doing, honey?" Anyway, so he RIP last year. It hasn't even been a year yet. I just gotta say, that's sad and discomforting, and also a little bit suspicious. But I wish he could be here right now. If you're out there, Kerry Mullis, please channel us in a beneficial, benign way. Anyway, I told you this guy was a radical dude. So the Swiss scientist Albert Hofmann, first person to synthesize and ingest and learn the psychedelic effect of LSD. He lived to be 102, you know. Well, he said of Kerry Mullis, he told him Kerry Mullis told him that LSD helped him develop the polymerase chain reaction, the PCR. Yeah, so it was at a symposium for his 100th, because he just turned a centenarian. Yeah, this guy, dang it, Albert Hofmann, first guy to synthesize and try LSD. He also was the first to synthesize, supposedly, like, psilocybin. Yeah, the magic mushroom. I'm just surprised I haven't heard more of his name. But anyway, it's Kerry Mullis too, man. These guys are really mavericks of an elitist age and culture, jet-setting crew. You know, so some people who would be mighty interesting just to have a few brews with. So anyway, he was an apostate of scientism dogma for all those. Also apostates of scientific dogma by using the PCR test as a diagnosis tool. Okay? You're not supposed to be doing that. Some of those people now, they're the new dogmatists of scientism. And, well, Anyway, I'll tell you a real maverick, though. Carrie Mullis claimed, this is according to Wikipedia, climate change and the HIV or AIDS connection are due to conspiracy of environmentalists, government agencies, and scientists attempting to preserve their careers and earn money rather than scientific evidence. So that almost made grammatical sense, according to Wikipedia. It wasn't a quote by Carrie Mullis, but okay, he is a AIDS denier, right? He wrote the foreword to Christine Magyar's book, What If Everything You Knew or Thought You Knew About AIDS Was Wrong? Alright. Yeah. I haven't gotten into that, not deep anyway. I'm not trying too quickly either. Some things, man, you realize how much you've been lied to, then you realize how much more you didn't know that you've been lied to sometimes, and you just kind of just stop there. But, I mean, I wish I could actually investigate all these things, because I wish I could learn how to code a computer too, but I don't have time to do that. I just want to learn Spanish or something, you know? Trying to make movies. Anyway, like I was saying, yeah, ABC ran a 2-part series on Carrie Mullis' life. Alright, he convinced them to actually do one of the series is on HIV, and the debate between does it or does it not create AIDS. And they went through with it. Apparently it was a momentous moment within the truther community. And yeah, I use that word advisedly. Yeah, I like that word. I'll resurrect it. So he is a big defender, of one of the biggest defenders of the HIV doesn't cause AIDS. Big defender of Peter Duesberg, doctor. And anyway, some of what he was saying about relating to the work on ABC, and this was done after, I do believe. He said this, he said, what ABC needs to do, and this is Carrie Mullis again, what ABC needs to do is to talk to Fauci and Gallo, Dr. Robert Gallo, who stole the credit for discovering HIV, the retrovirus. Somebody needs to talk to Fauci and Gallo and show that they're assholes, which I could do in 10 minutes. I'm going to just keep quoting Carrie Mullis here for 2 cards. Right after I grab another drink of water, my goodness. I think the air is too dry in here or something. But, alright, Carrie Mullis is ranting on. He said, I'd be willing to chase the Robert Gallo, a little bastard, from his car to his office and say, this is Carrie Mullis trying to ask you a goddamn simple question, and let cameras follow. If people think I'm a crazy person, that's okay, but here's a Nobel Prize winner trying to ask a simple question from those who spent $22 billion and killed 100,000 people. What numbers he's talking about, he could explain, not me. He said it has to be on TV. It's a visual thing. I'm not unwilling to do something like that, and I don't care about making an ass out of myself because most people realize I am one. So that's Carrie Mullis, radical ass mofo. So the hyper-evolution of these viruses is something we also need to consider. Realize that it's probably already evolved. Realize that because it evolved, it most likely, just like it always does, it tends to evolve less virulent, less deadly. It's going to kill fewer of us. It doesn't want to kill because it wants to be prevalent. It can't live inside of a corpse. So if it already evolved, then we all evolved. And we need to not even be thinking about the gutters of some mandatory vaccine. One that might be an mRNA vaccine. Look it up. Well, anyway, see, every year by year, the antibodies that we got from the flu, influenza last year, it may or may not even be good, because it changes sometimes more, sometimes drastically, right? Now the coronavirus, probably the same thing. Alright, we got an especially deadly batch of it. I'm willing to just say that, no doubt, but anyway, as time goes on and we take off these cough masks, take them off, because those things do make you sicker. Look at the only randomized controlled mask study for cough masks that's out there. It's the Vietnam study. Okay? So, as we all know, it takes years to make a new vaccine and put it to market because of all the testing and legal hoops and Oh yeah, except for every year we have the flu vaccine, which is totally new, and it's a shot in the dark, honestly, because the scientists would make it have no clue what the next season's gonna be like if they just bring something that's made from last season. Or it's the dirtiest freaking thing you could think about putting. Even though they're shooting blind, they're getting that mercury right where they want it. Up in your shoulder. Straight to your brain. And we always had corona. Okay? Corona is something that's just gonna be here with us. Of course, we're not the only species that it infects. Of course, the U.S. was actually funding covertly. It was through NIAID, research and work in China, Wuhan, Biolab 4, where they were doing gain of function. So they're trying to make these diseases, coronavirus, they're trying to make the coronavirus infect and cause the disease in another animal so it could proliferate, and then they say, make vaccines out of it. They're trying to make it, though, toxic to humans, right? Bat viruses that they transmit to human. They get like the evolved version of it. Maybe they tinker with it, they toy with it, they zap it, whatever they do. Or they just genetically engineer it from the top up, like top down, you know? It could be like xenogenesis. Yeah, that's a trippy field to even consider. Totally artificially genetic made monsters. Anyway, so Corona's always been with us. Don't get pussycat hearts now. This is just a bad strain. If it evolves so rapidly that we're short-served by our antibodies, then it's already a weaker virus because it evolves to survive. And if we survive, it survives. We all survive. We're going to get through this. All right. We should have more antibody tests instead of PCRs. So anyway, till the next episode, I'll catch y'all.